Pronounced, defined, used in lexical dispatch.
Vulnerable, adjective. Vulnerability, vulnerableness, vulnerably. Able to be easily physically or mentally hurt, influenced, or attacked. Exposed to danger. Susceptible, unprotected, sensitive. Plenitude, noun, a great sufficiency, abundance, profusion, fullness, completeness. The connected and wealthy will do fine, and will doubtless increase their power as the poor become more desperate and vulnerable to manipulation. The new ice formed this winter will be weaker and more vulnerable to melt, hastening the loss of ice next year. The one place we thought we were the absolute safest in our home turned out to be the most vulnerable. So we lay ourselves bare, vulnerable in our humanity, empathetic to the plight of another human being. The most vulnerable areas include underground walkways and the subway, overnight trains, train stations, airports, markets, tourist attractions, and restaurants. A second assumption is that some rare and vulnerable species and natural communities would be inadequately protected by coarse filters. When the most vulnerable members of society need the police, they are too afraid for their own well-being to summon them to the scene. We have identified that this vulnerability is being used to infect computers by installing malware on them. Something about her silence, the vulnerableness of her glances, just drew me in. Writing vulnerably takes as much skill, nuance, and willingness to follow through on all the ramifications of a complicated idea as does writing invulnerably and distantly. The immediate dilemma facing anyone seeking spiritual information online isn't the paucity of information, but the plenitude we create by internalizing and making new are part of the plenitude of social enactments. This notion of a fall from a sense of plenitude and nonfragmented reality probably accounts for the novel's pervasive recourse to mythology. His newfound spiritual plenitude is reflected by that of the landscape, lush and fertile. It is warmed by the benevolent rays of a caressing sun. He appears to have been the first who assumed, without disguise, the plenitude of legislative power. I think more highly of him in the plenitude of his life than when fear of death reduced his faculties. Everywhere was a plenitude of fruits, flowers, greenery, children, birds. Despite its plenitude, gas hydrate was long subject to petroleum industry skepticism.